Hello, folks, and welcome to another series of Sales Haven Insights. Today, we are privileged to have Scott Barker from Sales Hacker. Scott is the head of partnerships at Sales Hacker. He is also the evangelist for outreach. Scott, thank you very, very much for joining us. How are you today?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me. Excited for this conversation.
Yeah, cool. Where are you joining us from today?
Vancouver, Canada, actually.
Vancouver, Canada, and we're doing this all through Zoom today. The joys of technology. Obviously, with everything that's going on, it's a little bit sad, but we have got to keep this content coming because there's lots of people out there who just want to learn how to sell, who want to be better at selling, and hopefully, we're going to bring a little bit of that out today. Scott, so could you just tell us before we jump in with the questions, tell us a little bit about Sales Hacker and a little bit about outreach.
For sure, man. So, Sales Hacker is the largest B2B sales community on the planet for salespeople. So we actually, similar to yourself, we create content for salespeople to help them get better at their job, to write some new best practices and share with them technology that's going to help them do their job. So we have a big blog where we produce 3-4 pieces of content each and every week. We do 2 webinars each week, and we've got the Sales Hacker podcast as well. And it's all about, just helping salespeople level up. So that's Sales Hacker. I run partnerships and revenue there. And then we were acquired a year and a half ago, which was an interesting acquisition by a large software company, tech company called Outreach. And they are a sales engagement platform. They're really building this category. And the way you can look at sales engagement, the quick and dirty version is, we all know CRM, right? CRM is kind of your system of record. It's where you house all the information that you collect from your prospects and clients. And you can look at sales engagement as your system of action. So it's actually going to allow you to be more efficient with your actions, and you can set up different, we call them sequences, where it's going to keep you on track to ultimately closing that deal.
Yeah, cool. So that's a little snippet about Scott Barker. And again, Scott's always open. Scott was very, very open just to talking to me through the medium of LinkedIn. It's my platform. I love it. I've been passionate about LinkedIn for ages. I'm sure you're a fan of LinkedIn too, by the looks of it. So yeah,
Totally.
reach out to Scott. He's very open. And again, if he can help you with anything, I'm sure he'll be happy to help. So that leads us straight into the questioning, Scott. We like to keep this short and snappy. So I'm going to ask you just to tell us how you got into sales. What's your sort of journey of getting into sales and where you are now?
Like many in sales, it is a long story, and I don't know how snappy I can make it, but I'll do my very, very best. So I've been really lucky, and I've been afforded a ton of fantastic opportunities in my life, and I absolutely love what I do now, but it certainly wasn't always the case. I started out, my first job was not straight out of college or uni, actually straight out of high school. I got a summer job before I was going to go off to university, selling golf and spa packages, believe it or not, door to door. So knocking on doors. I don't know if you know the company Groupon, but it was kind of like Groupon before the internet was as big as it is now. And I'm not that old, trust me, but like it wasn't the thing that it is now. And so I was knocking on doors, selling these things, and I became quite good at it over that summer. And I actually became the #1 rep in Canada. And they offered to fly me out to Australia to help them open up an office. I was a big rugby guy growing up. So you tell me, I can go to Australia and you're going to pay for me to go there. I went, much to my parents' chagrin. I pushed off my college and my university and went down and did that for about 9 months. New country, funny new accent, and knocking on thousands and thousands of doors. That was my entryway into sales. I then came back, went back to business school for a little while. Remember asking my economics teacher if they'd ever started a business or been part of a successful business, and got the answer no. And I walked out and never went back, and ended up starting my own business. It wasn't glamorous. It was a a laundry subscription service for college kids,
Ah,
actually, before subscription services were as big as they are now. That was a lot of fun. There was a lot of selling in that. We're selling college kids on this. And then did that for a little while, ended up getting out of that business, selling it for not a lot of money. But that's when I transitioned into inside sales, spent some time in the travel industry. Again, was really lucky to have a lot of success and did the classic, I was a top performer, so they just kept promoting me. And, by the end of it, I was running a team of 14 sales and marketers with the GM of Canada, and
beautiful.
then bumbled my way into tech at about 4 years ago now. I couldn't get a director or manager role, which I thought I should have at the time. I was very naive with my management experience, but started at the bottom. It was a BDR only, I think it was 4.5 years ago now, maybe 5.
Wow.
And I've worked my way up from there.
Beautiful. And again, this is very, very typical of the sales journey and what people go through. Some people, do you believe that a degree, a good education can help you get there quicker, or do you believe in experience? Just a bit of a curveball for you.
We could have a totally other podcast on that. I don't think there is many educations currently that set you up for success in a lot of industries, at least within business. Of course, if you're a doctor, you got to go and learn how to do this stuff. If you're a lawyer, we got to do that. But business is evolving at such a rate. The pace of innovation that's happening is so fast that all of the things you absorb are useless within a year and a half. So I think it's important to learn how to learn.
Yeah.
That is really important. So I wouldn't throw education out as a whole. Education's more important than ever. But I think if you have a lifelong learning mindset, I don't know if you need to go and spend a bunch of money on a formal education anymore. There's so many resources, Khan Academy, YouTube tutorials, master classes, literally, it's all there at your fingertips. You just got to go and do it. And sometimes formal education is the best route for some people because they're not disciplined enough to do it on their own.
Correct. Yeah, cool. Listen, thanks for answering that curveball. So in terms of selling, this is your journey so far. So I want to ask you now, what have your challenges been on your sales journey? So in terms of, if we look at selling, what kind of challenges have you been faced with when you're selling?
Mm-hmm. So there's a lot, like obviously given the landscape right now, it's an extremely, extremely challenging landscape. A lot of sellers find themselves in now with COVID-19 and coronavirus. So, quick tips there is, all the things you were doing in the world before this happened will not work in this world. So you have to go back, redefine your ideal customer profiles, understand which industries were hit the hardest, lead with empathy above all else, literally give until it hurts, because gives, in my opinion, and asks are both worth double in times of crisis. Meaning, if you give something to a prospect or a customer right now, it's going to be worth double the amount it would normally be worth because everyone's struggling right now. And on the flip side of that, if you make an ask, even if it's, hey, I want a meeting, that is still an ask. Those also are double because people are struggling right now, and they have to give up more to do that. So just wanted to quickly touch on that because I think I'd be remiss if we just skipped over that. But for me, there's a few things that have posed problems, I guess, for me, and challenges. One is, I think I was lucky that I was right at this space where I could see the old ways of selling were dead, right? They no longer worked. But I still had a lot of managers, directors, mentors, people in my life that grew up in an era when, spray and pray worked, when more dials worked, when just hard work and being as motivated as possible was still good advice. And so I think one of the things that I struggled with is I didn't always blindly follow a process that was given to me.
Hmm.
Some of my reports like that because I would innovate, but some definitely didn't like that. And I guess it's now more than ever. You really have to, and it sounds cliche, but
Mm.
you got to work. So working hard is the entrance to the game, right?
Yeah,
But how you actually win the game is working harder and smarter.
yeah,
And I see way too much advice out there of people just telling young sellers, "Hey, just work hard and work the 14-hour days and you'll
the
be fine."
grind,
And,
the
and quite
grind, the
frankly,
grind.
it's terrible, terrible advice. So,
Yeah,
yes, work hard. Yes, sales is a numbers game to some certain extent, but you have to find time for experimentation and working smarter, not just harder. Um, and then lastly, the last thing I'll add is just sales as a professional in general. There's information everywhere now, so salespeople inherently aren't as valuable as they used to be.
okay,
So you have to work much harder to make yourself valuable. And what I mean by that is back in the day, when there wasn't as much information on the internet, you would need to talk to a salesperson because you couldn't get all the information you need elsewhere. So the seller had this information that you needed. They were actually really valuable. And now with the proliferation of information and the democratization of knowledge, um, they don't need you as much anymore. So you have to work extra hard to make yourself relevant and valuable.
brilliant. It's actually something I've never looked at it that way. To be fair, I tell people all the time, you need to be a trusted advisor. You need to,
Totally.
you need to know exactly what you're talking about. Um, so yeah, that's an interesting viewpoint there, Scott. Thanks for sharing that. Um, in terms, so that's your challenges. In terms of overcoming some of those challenges, what would you recommend? Is technology playing a big part today? Obviously, with what's going on, yes, it is. But is technology playing such a vital role now in how people can sell better?
Mm-hmm.
What would you say? How would you overcome those challenges?
Yeah. I think there's the age old, I can't remember whose methodology this is, but it's, bucket into people, process, technology in that order,
Okay.
right? So you have to focus on the people and what you can do individually. And then you got to build process around that and then layer in the technology. Because if you just bring in a bunch of technology, but the process and the people aren't skilled enough to use it, then
Mm,
it's not gonna it's not gonna work. It's not gonna be effective. You're essentially just gonna be speeding um, really fast in the wrong direction.
yeah,
The technology speeds everything up. That's all it does.
it sounds like when companies implement CRM
Mm-hmm.
and they don't talk to the CEO who doesn't realize that he can push a button and pull reports and doesn't
Mm-hmm.
realize that by asking his sales manager to ask his team to pull a report actually has a detriment to their selling time. It's it's
Mm-hmm.
it's madness. So yeah, I like
Yeah.
that process. That's really
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Um,
But I would say there's certain things that are table stakes, right? Like CRM table stakes now, sales engagement software table stakes now, some sort of data source like Discover Org, Zoom Info table stakes, LinkedIn Sales Navigator table stakes, some sort of sales enablement solution table stakes. I would say chat is becoming table stakes. Video solutions becoming table stakes. There is things that like I look at myself, I would never go lead a team or
mm,
join a team in any capacity that didn't have those, 6 or 7 core
okay.
technologies.
Okay,
Yeah.
so and to simplify it for some people, this is what we'd call a sales stack or a sales
Yeah.
technology stack. Um, Particularly here in Northern Ireland, it's not something that a lot of people are aware of,
Yeah.
let alone even think about. Um,
Yeah.
a lot of people here, Scott, just to give you insight, and this is my own personal experience as well. A lot of people are still relying on the old methodology of prospecting, of research. Spending hours and hours just mining data from the internet, each individual rep. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
But guys, as Scott has already said here, there's so much technology available to you now.
Mhm.
Um, by all means, reach out to Scott. I'm not an expert.
Mhm.
in that particular field. But Scott, you're playing in that field, you know.
Oh yeah, I could rattle off 50. I'll rattle off a few that I would say check out. So Salesforce, of course, you need a CRM. Outreach, sales engagement platform lives on top of that. Discover Org or Zoom Info will be all this data that you need. You can plug in like a Vidyard to send video messaging. You can plug in like a high spot that would be sales enablement. So making sure your reps have all the information they need to be successful. There's chat like a drift or an intercom. Uh, yeah, I could go on and on, but those are a few. Do some research on your own time, and maybe kind of slowly start understanding what they're all about. And I promise they'll help a lot, a lot.
Yeah, please do some great advice. So that would nicely kind of lead on to you've touched on some tips already, but I want to get your top three tips personally for
Hmm.
salespeople selling better.
Yeah. So you touched on this a little bit, but I want to go deeper into it because it's
Hmm.
fundamentally, I think, the most important thing. People spend a lot of time. Well, hopefully, if you're listening to this podcast, you're spending time trying to master your craft, right? Master the craft of selling, which is super important. But you have to understand that you need to become an industry expert first and a salesperson second, right? So try this kind of thought experiment. And this is what I used to do. I still hold a multi-million dollar number. I still carry a bag. I still do all this stuff. And I'll play like a thought experiment with myself when I've got these deals and I'm talking to prospects is I want to make myself so valuable and so knowledgeable in the area that we're talking about that whatever the deal price is that we're talking about, they would be comfortable
Hmm.
spending that to just get access to me, nothing else.
Okay.
They would be okay with spending the, you know, $5,000 a month or whatever it is in the software you're selling or whatever it may be, just to have access to me because I am that valuable to them. And the product or service that I sell just happens to be a byproduct that they also get. So it's a fun experiment to play around with. And once you start thinking like that, it does make a mental shift where you become a consultant versus a salesperson.
Hmm.
And frankly, it makes selling a lot more fun. So that's one.
Hmm.
Number two, take control of your brand and reputation. It's easier than ever to, we talk about personal branding and social selling and this kind of thing. There's a lot of names for it. I don't know if they're the right names for it, but it's really the ability to take control and scale your reputation. And LinkedIn is one of the most powerful resources right now for
Massive.
B2B sellers. It truly is. It's changed my career, changed the trajectory of my career for sure.
Hmm.
I can directly attribute probably about $2 million directly from LinkedIn, either
Yes.
generated or influenced on that platform. And I guess my third one is taking that a step further. I think sellers need to at least understand more about marketing in this day and age.
Yeah.
And part of that is LinkedIn, part of that is personal branding, but there's also all these skills that used to be really hard to learn are really easy to learn now. Meaning making a podcast 3 years ago would have been really hard.
Wouldn't
Now
even
it's
have thought
not
about it.
all that hard. Now it's not that difficult to do.
Yeah.
You used to have to go to graphic design school for 3 years to get a diploma. Now you can go on like Canva and build whatever you want,
Yeah.
right? So I think it comes down to this just like insane accountability that if you need something, that you go out and teach it to yourself because it's easier now than ever to teach yourself something. So take the time to do that. And I guess, yeah, accountability and authenticity to me are the two superpowers of a modern seller.
Yeah, beautiful. Thanks very much for sharing that with us. Um, this would nicely lead on to the next sort of question, and we've kind of touched on a few things that we would change about the sales industry and how people are selling. But is there anything that you've seen? Obviously, you're podcasting, you're speaking to lots of different people. Is there
Mhm.
anything that you would change about the way people are selling today?
Hmm. so I touched on a few, but one, leave more time for experimentation. That's always something I did through my career, and it was really, really helpful. So hit your numbers, hit your KPIs, hit all that stuff,
Hmm.
but leave like 5 to 10% of your week to just experiment with new things, new channels, new strategies, new ways of thinking, all these things. I don't think there's enough experimentation in sales, and in all other industries you see it all the time, constantly innovating. We're not the fastest to innovate in sales, so leave time for experimentation. um, you have to find ways. I guess something I would change is the typical like account executive who's doing 8 demos a day. You have to find ways to um, force yourself to be present, because I find now more than ever, you do that for a few years, and when I have my buyer hat on and someone's giving me a demo, I can tell it's just a rinse and repeat model.
Yeah.
So do what you have to do, whether that's like meditation or little like some sort of practice that you do to get yourself back to that center, so that you're actually actively listening and engaging in a dialogue with another person and
Hmm.
not just viewing them as a prospect, is huge. And then last but certainly not least is know that even if you're at an organization, and I've been part of some, who is not enabling you, who is not giving you training, who does not have the technology, who manager doesn't give them the things they need,
Hmm.
that's not an excuse. I'm sorry, it sucks to hear, but it's not an excuse. I've been in situations where I've bought my own software. I've been in situations where I've built my own case studies. And you don't have to do it alone either. There's an entire community. There's all the people that listen to this podcast. There's you, there's me, there's the whole sales hacker community. There's the Unleashed community on outreach. And there's a lot of people who are willing to help you out if you show the initiative. So
Hmm.
know that there's an entire community out there. You don't have to rely on just the people that you see in front of you every day. And if you start to leverage the literally infinite resources around you, I think you'd be amazed what can happen.
Yeah, I think that's something I'm very big on. Is salespeople often feel that they are alone in this world, in this game, and it's just not the case anymore. You're not alone. There is
Yeah.
these communities. There's people like yourself, myself, who are willing to just have a quick chat, be that via Messenger, LinkedIn, a quick Zoom call, whatever it may be. So yeah, totally get you there, and I agree with you 110%. So Scott, that kind of wraps up our questioning, and I must say, very very insightful. Um, we kind of chatted offline just before we jumped on, and I've kind of alluded to the fact that Northern Ireland is probably about 20 years behind our cousins there across the water with yourself. So it's really really good to get some insight, and hopefully, particularly the technology stack and some of the information you've provided today is just excellent. So, on that note, where can people find you, and what types of people are you looking to talk to? Be that for business, be that for your podcast, whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so Scott Barker on LinkedIn. That's the best way to connect with me. I'm down to connect with anyone in sales. I shared. I've been on the BDR side trying to figure it all out. I've been lucky enough to lead teams. I've kind of been through the gambit of sales. So happy to connect with anyone who lives in that world, sales or marketing, and wants to just level up. Go check out saleshacker.com. There's a ton of great resources to help you. Check out the Sales Engagement podcast as well. And then, you know, I think every sales team on earth should be using some sort of sales engagement platform. So whether it's outreach or something else, do yourself a favor and look into sales engagement platforms for sure.
Beautiful, Scott. Thank you very much for your time. Like I say, very insightful, and hopefully some of our guys here in Northern Ireland will get some information from that.
Awesome. Thanks, Kenny.
Thanks, man. Cheers.